I was the foster daughter my adoptive family was marrying off for a business deal. The arrangement was simple. Shawn would marry Wendy, and I would marry Jackson. I put on my sweetest, most innocent act. "Shawn, please. Don't marry me off, okay?" He just let out a soft laugh. "Lily, don't forget your place." His kiss landed at the corner of my mouth. "That Jackson kid is a cripple. After you marry him, we can keep seeing each other, just like this." But Jackson was a better man than him in every way. The night passed. He was composed and relaxed. I was exhausted down to my bones. He set a black card on the nightstand. "Here, good girl. Go buy yourself something nice." I didn't move, just pulled the blanket over my head and buried myself in it. He moved closer, wrapping his arms around me over the comforter, his voice as soft as if he were coaxing a kitten. "Still mad at me? What can I do to make it better, His breath tickled my ear, a familiar mix of affection and control. I didn't say a word, just pushed away his wandering hands. "Do you love Wendy?" I asked quietly. He chuckled. "What are you thinking, you silly girl? You're the only one in my heart. It's only ever been you." That was Shawn. No matter what he was really thinking, he always knew the exact words I wanted to hear. If I hadn't seen him press Wendy against the door, kissing her like he couldn't bear to let go, I would have believed every word. I gently cupped his face, my smile deceptively innocent. "It's okay if you love Wendy. Then I'll just go love Jackson. I'll just learn to do whatever you do." His expression turned to ice. In the next second, he grabbed the back of my head and crushed his lips to mine, the force so strong it nearly suffocated me. After a long moment, he finally let me go. He looked at my swollen lips, his thumb brushing over them. "If you want to make me angry, sweetheart, pick a better way. You think that cripple can do for you what I can?" He stared at me, his tone gentle but laced with a dangerous edge. "Say it. Say my good girl belongs only to me. Say that Lily only has room in her heart for Shawn." The pressure of his hand increased, a smile playing on his lips even as his fingers pressed so hard that my lips started to bleed. "My good girl belongs only to me. Lily only loves Shawn." The words were a mumble from my throat. He was finally satisfied, placing a soft, rewarding kiss on the corner of my eye. "That's my girl," he said. "I have a board meeting with some old fossils today. Help me pick out a tie, would you?" I nodded his tie, watching as he casually picked up a pair of cufflinks and put them on. They weren't from me. He ruffled my hair. "Wait for me for dinner tonight, okay? Be good." With that, he grabbed his jacket and walked out the door. I waited until he was completely gone before I got out of bed to get dressed. I was going to see Jackson. The booths was obscenely powerful, yet Jackson was so quiet he might as well have not existed. He lived alone in a 3-story townhouse in the old district, spending his days restoring broken porcelain. No social life, no business dinners. His name was rarely ever mentioned. This wasn't my first time meeting him. The first time was when I ran out of Shawn's office. Shawn had told me he was working late that day. I believed him. I wanted to surprise him. But through the crack in the door, I saw him holding Wendy on the sofa, his voice as gentle as when he spoke to me. "You're the only one in my heart. From the beginning, it's only ever been you." The familiar words made my stomach turn. I turned and ran. As I hit the street, the sky opened up in a downpour. No umbrella, no direction. My heels splashed through puddles, my wet hair sticking to my face. I slipped and fell. I couldn't get up, so I just leaned against a bus stop ad and sat there. I didn't feel any pain, just an overwhelming emptiness. Someone walked over and stood in front of me for a long time, holding an umbrella, saying nothing. When I finally looked up, he leaned down and draped his jacket over me. "Where's your family?" he asked. I shook my head. "Friends?" I didn't answer. He didn't ask again. He just stood there in the rain for a moment before taking me with him. He took me home. The townhouse was quiet, with warm lighting, clean floors, and the scent of sandalwood in the air. I hadn't even taken off my shoes, and water was already dripping from my pant legs onto his rug. He didn't say anything, just tossed me a towel and a clean dress shirt. "Go take a shower," he said. "You'll catch a cold." I just stood there, clutching the towel, not moving. He glanced at me. "Bathroom's on the left." I finally went in. It was only when the hot water hit me that I realized I was shaking. From the cold, from the humiliation, but mostly from the confusion. Shawn used to be so good to me. I wasn't even 10 when the Smiths took me in. Shawn ran over to look me up and down, fascinated. "So you're the little thing for the marriage alliance?" I didn't answer. He crouched down and patted my head. "Call me Shawn." I kept my mouth shut. He didn't seem to mind, just ruffled my hair. "Don't worry, I'll look out for you from now on." Then came my 10th birthday. No one had ever remembered my birthday. I'd never celebrated one. But that day, Shawn lit 10 small candles in my room and asked me with a smile what my wish was. I said, "I wish you'll be here with me, every year from now on." He smiled, blew out the candles for me, and whispered, "I'll always be here." It was the first birthday wish I ever made. Maybe because I said it out loud, it didn't come true. I crouched in the shower for a long time, scrubbing myself over and over, trying to wash away the memories. It was useless. When I walked out wrapped in a towel, the scent of ginger was drifting from the kitchen. A bowl of hot porridge sat on a tray with a clean spoon. He was sitting there quietly, not prying, not questioning. He just said, "Eat it while it's hot." I managed a few bites before putting the spoon down. He sat across from me, cleaning his glasses, acting as if nothing had happened. I finally broke the silence. "You're not going to ask who I am?" His tone was placid. "You didn't ask who I am." I pressed my lips together. "And you just bring a total stranger home?" He looked up, his gaze serious. "Of course I would." "You're Lily." The girl designated for the Booths' arranged marriage. "My fiancé." I froze. He slowly finished wiping his glasses, put them back on, and took a sip of water before adding calmly. "From the very beginning, you were always meant to be mine." I couldn't tell if he was a savior or just another abyss. But that night, he was the only person I could hold on to. I arrived at Jackson's studio. He was sitting by the window, painting a repaired piece of porcelain. I stood at the door without a word, just watching him. Shawn's good looks were sharp and aggressive, even his smile had an edge. Jackson was different. His features were gentle, his presence as calm as a deep well. After a long moment, he set down his brush and looked up at me. "Sorry, I was just finishing a piece." "I didn't see you come in," he said, his voice soft. I walked over and sat down. "Can I get you something?" "I just brewed a pot of tea." He trailed off, his gaze falling to my neck. I thought my collar was high enough, but a faint, lingering mark betrayed what had happened last night. He didn't stare, just calmly looked away and picked up a white porcelain cup. "Here, help me polish this rim. Be gentle. It's very fragile." Jackson's seat had a perfect view, so perfect I could see everything happening in the bridal boutique across the street. Shawn, the man who was supposedly at a board meeting, was standing inside, fastening the back of Wendy's dress. The boutique's lights were bright, like a spotlight set up just for them. Wendy tilted her head up, smiling as she said something. Shawn smiled back and nodded. I knew that smile all too well. The crinkle of his eyes, the hand resting on her waist, pulling her just a little closer. It was the same way he used to pull me in and murmur, "Don't move, sweetheart." As he helped her choose a veil, his fingers casually brushed against her collarbone. She didn't flinch. He didn't pull away. Wendy turned and leaned into his embrace. He bent down, whispering something in her ear. She looked up at him, and he leaned down to kiss her. A light, impossibly tender kiss on her forehead. He'd given me that same kiss before. Under the trellis in the Smith's backyard, in the dark, on my 18th birthday. I thought it was just for me. But now it was clear I was just the practice dummy. I stared through the glass, unable to make out their expressions, only their intertwined figures. They looked like they were made for each other. I didn't know when Jackson had pulled me into his arms, his hand now resting on my waist. They looked so happy together. His voice was still just as soft. Our wedding is in 3 months. Lily, what kind of dress do you want? He tucked a stray strand of my hair behind my ear, his fingers brushing past my neck. That Jackson kid is a cripple. After you marry him, we can still be together, just like this. The words Shawn had whispered in my ear last night coiled around me like a ghost, replaying over and over in my mind. I suddenly started to laugh. But my eyes stung terribly. Is it a beautiful sight? I asked. Jackson turned to look at me, his voice still gentle. Are you talking about the dress, or? His fingertips lightly traced the red mark on my collarbone. I spun around and kissed him, a clumsy, desperate mess. He lifted me up and set me down on the long, dark wood table by the window. The floor-to-ceiling window was right behind me. He didn't draw the curtains. Outside, their kiss had just ended. Inside, I was pressed against the edge of the table, my eyes red, my heart hammering like it was about to burst. Jackson didn't speak. He just lowered his head and kissed me. It felt like a ritual. He was erasing me, inch by inch, from being Shawn's girl and making me his. It was almost 10 when I got back. The moment I pushed the door open, I saw Shawn sitting in the living room. Only a single side lamp was on, obscuring his expression. Hearing the door, he looked up, a slight smile on his lips. You're finally back? Yeah, had dinner with a friend. We lost track of time. And your phone? It was on silent in my purse. I didn't notice. He stood and walked toward me, trapping me against the entryway wall with a sweep of his arm. The scent of mint and smoke enveloped me. He leaned in, sniffing near my neck, and chuckled. You smell good. What restaurant was it? The incense is so nice. You'll have to take me sometime. The scent clinging to me was the sandalwood Jackson always burned in his studio. The place is reservation only. The owner doesn't take just anyone. It wasn't a total lie. Jackson's studio really was that exclusive. Shawn looked at me, the smile slowly fading from his face. So it seems my Lily is quite popular out there. Then he leaned in to kiss me. I turned my head slightly, and his lips missed their mark. He froze, stunned. I stood on my toes and straightened his tie. How was the board meeting? Did the old fossils give you a hard time again? He didn't answer, just stared at my mouth, his eyes darkening. His Adam's apple bobbed as he fought to suppress something. My fingers gently covered his hand. Shawn, I'm just so tired today. Let me off the hook tonight, okay? He seemed at a loss for words, the last traces of anger on his face melting away at my soft plea. He finally smiled, stroking my face. You little lazybones. I've been waiting for you for over 2 hours. Go get changed. I had the housekeeper keep the food warm. Come have a few bites with me. Okay, I nodded, watching his back as he walked into the kitchen, my eyes downcast. My fingers brushed against my wrist, where the faint red mark from Jackson still lingered. Just then, the butler came in, smiling. Miss, a package just arrived for you. I turned to see a large gift box in the entryway. The moment I opened it, the soft gleam of satin spilled out. It was a wedding dress. The wedding dress was exactly my style. A sleek, form-fitting silhouette with an asymmetrical shoulder. The waist was cinched perfectly. And the circle of irises embroidered on the hem looked like something plucked straight from my dreams. What's this? Shawn asked as he walked out of the kitchen. The moment he saw the wedding dress, a flicker of panic crossed his face. He'd seen this dress before. It was the first one Wendy had picked out when he went dress shopping with her. It's too plain. It doesn't suit you, he'd told her at the time. Wendy had just smiled, chewing on her straw. Then who does it suit? Your little good girl? His good girl, of course, would look perfect in it. He remembered the embroidered irises, how they looked just like a drawing Lily had scribbled in a notebook when she was a child. As he stood there, stunned, Wendy's mocking words echoed in his head. She'd said Lily was marrying into the Booths. Her dress was their concern. She'd also said that if the Booths found out about him and Lily, he wouldn't even know what hit him. A wave of inexplicable frustration washed over Shawn. He swallowed, his voice tight. Must be a mistake. A mistake? Yeah. I'll have someone send it back tomorrow, he said, starting to shove the dress back into the box. I reached out and stopped him. But I love it. Can we please not send it back? He paused for a second. Then he smiled, as if something had suddenly clicked into place. He wrapped his arms around my waist from behind. If you like it, we'll keep it. He leaned in and bit my earlobe. I want to see you in it, too. And after you put it on, I'll be the one to take it off. I want you in that wedding dress, lying in my bed, while I unwrap you, layer by layer. Didn't you say you wanted to marry me? Lily, this is how you marry me. I felt sick. I turned my head away to avoid him. Don't run, sweetheart. You're mine, he said, bracing his hand next to my head, his kisses turning fierce and demanding. Shawn. I whispered. It's not a good time of the month. He stopped, then stroked my head again. How about I take you on a trip? Just the two of us. Shawn took me to Seabrook Island. Beaches, sun, and an endless blue ocean. We checked into an overwater bungalow, and he immediately pressed me against the door. Lily, let's have a wedding here on the island. Just us. What do you say? I wanted to say no. I might be his good girl, but I wasn't an idiot. This resort was famous for its mock wedding packages, just a little game to play with a lover. I wasn't his lover, and I was done playing games. Shawn. I started, but his phone rang. The caller ID read, S. Wendy. He scowled and rejected the call, pulling me closer. The phone, as if in defiance, rang again. I smiled and pushed him away. You should get that. It might be important. He stepped outside, spoke for a few moments, then came back in. It's a video conference. Wait for me, okay? He was going to see Wendy, I thought to myself. I nodded, my smile perfectly docile. After he left, I lay on the waterbed, watching the sunset paint the horizon in shades of orange. It's almost over, I thought. Do you like the dress? A familiar voice said from behind me. I jolted, leaning over the edge to see Jackson climbing out of the water. Water dripped from his shoulders, and the sunlight hitting his body made the lines of his muscles glisten. I suddenly remembered Shawn calling him a cripple over and over. I let out a laugh, then immediately blushed. What are you doing here? I blurted out. He sat down beside me, his voice calm. I heard my fiancé was here, so I came. He said it so casually, as if he were remarking on the nice weather. Shawn would marry Wendy, and I would marry Jackson. Maybe that wasn't so bad after all. I love it, I said. So the dress was from him. I beckoned to him with my finger. He leaned down. I whispered in his ear, my voice full of mischief. Shawn said he wants to see me in the wedding dress, lying in bed. While he unwraps me, layer by layer. Jackson's eyes darkened. The next second, he swept me into his arms. Lily. He kissed me, so lightly, his lips and teeth exploring my skin, inch by inch. The room still smelled of Shawn. His luggage was scattered by the bed. My nails dug into Jackson's back. He let out a low grunt, his arms tightening around me. What if he comes back? I whispered. Let him listen, Jackson breathed against my earlobe, his voice impossibly hoarse. Let him know you're not his good girl anymore. You're mine. The wind picked up, making the curtains billow. The bed sheets were a tangled mess, the air thick with a chaotic energy. Jackson still held me, not letting go. Night fell. I reached out and turned on the bedside lamp. What are you doing? He asked. I hooked my arms around his neck, pulling him closer, and whispered. So he can get a clear view when he comes back. We heard footsteps outside. The doorknob turned slightly. Jackson bit my lower lip, his voice raw. Let him hear you say my name. Shawn. A crisp female voice called from outside. I heard Jackson is here too. Do you want to go see him? The doorknob stopped turning. It was released, and the footsteps faded away. Jackson let out a low laugh. The Whites. So much more perceptive than the Smiths. My mind spun, and I suddenly realized something, my eyes widening. Wendy works for you? Lily, you are mine, he corrected me, annoyed. As for Wendy, she's merely useful. His voice suddenly took on a wounded tone. You were supposed to marry me. That year, I was so sick I thought I was dying. I didn't want to wake up most days. My mother told me there was a sweet, gentle girl who needed my protection. She pushed me in my wheelchair to the Smith's backyard to see you. You were so small, you looked even thinner than me, and you were just sitting there, carefully peeling an orange. The wind blew, and I felt like I could smell the citrus. But then you fed the orange to Shawn. My eyes widened slightly. He nuzzled my neck like a pouting child, then gave it a punitive little bite. I was sitting right there, watching you put it right in his mouth. And I thought to myself, one day, I'm going to be the one you peel oranges for. He pressed his whole body against me, playfully restless. From that day on, I never took my eyes off you. I watched you follow him around, calling his name. I watched you forgive him after a few sweet words. I watched you laugh for him, cry for him, and get left behind by him, time and time again. Lily, you're so naive and fragile. If I weren't here to protect you, you'd be eaten alive. So I went along with their plan and went abroad for treatment. But by the time I came back, my little girl's heart had already been broken. You have no idea how badly I wanted to destroy that bastard Shawn. But I didn't dare. I was afraid you'd cry. I was afraid you'd still care about him. I was afraid you'd hate me. Lily. You don't know how long I've waited, how hard it's been. And I was so stunned I couldn't react, I even forgot to stop his roaming hands. When I was at my absolute lowest, the thought of you was what got me through. Lily, you're the obsession I've hidden in my soul. All that fooling around left me starving. Jackson, feigning helplessness, carried me on his back all the way to the restaurant. We sat at a table by the window. The sea breeze made the candlelight flicker on my face. He had 2 oranges on the table in front of me and was watching me with a grin. I just waved a hand at him. He picked one up himself, peeled it meticulously, and placed a segment in my mouth. Sweet? Sour? He laughed and tweaked my nose. Lily? A familiar voice said. Wendy was on Shawn's arm, wearing a slinky cocktail dress, her smile perfectly polished and sweet. But Shawn's gaze was fixed on Jackson's hand, which was still touching my cheek. Made a new friend, Lily? He asked, slowly approaching. Aren't you going to introduce us? I was about to speak, but Jackson smiled first. Her guardian? Shawn froze for a second, his eyes narrowing. He pulled out the chair across from me and sat down. My little sister has always been a bit naive. If she did anything to give you the wrong impression, I hope you won't take it to heart. There's no wrong impression, Jackson said, his smile unwavering. His elegant fingers gently closed around mine. Shawn, your family finally did one useful thing. Hi, I'm Jackson. Shawn's hand tensed, the color draining from his face. You said. Who are you? I'm Jackson, he repeated calmly. And she. He leaned in and licked a bit of orange juice from the corner of my lips before slowly raising his eyes to meet Shawn's. Is not anyone's good girl. Mrs. Booth doesn't need to be good. I leaned against Jackson's shoulder, a smile playing on my lips. Shawn, thank you and your mother for picking such a wonderful fiancé for me. Not only is he handsome, but he's kind, his hands are wonderful, and his legs are wonderful, too. As I finished, Jackson leaned in and gave my earlobe a playful, rewarding nibble. Shawn's hands clenched into fists, the veins on his knuckles popping. Jackson gave him a cool glance. I told you, Mrs. Booth can be as impolite as she wants. But you, Shawn, you should learn some manners. He picked up a piece of lobster and placed it on my plate. Try this. I took a bite and chewed slowly. Would you like some, Shawn? After all, we have to respect our elders. Shawn's face was terrifyingly dark, his lips bloodless. Mrs. Booth seems to be in a good mood today, Jackson said, turning to me. What else would you like? I can have anything I want? I asked, blinking. He chuckled and kissed my forehead. Anything you desire. Shawn finally shot to his feet, the movement so abrupt that his chair clattered to the floor. He stared at me for a long, hard second, then turned and stalked out. By the way, Shawn, I had your room changed. My wife and I need our privacy, Jackson called after him in a pleasant tone. Shawn hurried away, his steps almost a stumble. Wendy stood up, looking like she wanted to follow but glancing uncertainly at Jackson. Go on. You can be the next Mrs. Shawn in peace. Jackson calmly began deboning a piece of fish for me. Be careful. This fish is good, but it has a lot of bones. I thought Shawn and I were done, that we'd gone our separate ways. I didn't expect him to come after me like a ghost, and so soon. The moment the doorbell rang, I thought it was a delivery from Jackson and opened it without thinking. But it was Shawn. He stared at me coldly, his words clipped. Lily, come back with me, and I'll pretend none of this ever happened. He reached out to grab me. I stepped back, dodging his hand. Shawn, my fiancé is here. This isn't appropriate. He suddenly laughed. You're really something else, Lily. You actually think you're going to be Mrs. Booth? Am I not? I tilted my head up at him. You and Wendy, me and Jackson. Wasn't that the plan from the start? Lily, stop this. His voice grew cold, his eyes changing. Who do you think you are? You're just a stray my family took in, a charity case I saved with a single word. Everything you have today is because of me. You belong to whoever I say you belong to. The mask of civility finally fell away. You grew up with me, eating my food, using my things. You used to crawl into my bed just to sleep. You think you can live without me? And Jackson? You really think the Booths give a damn about a foster kid? What does he want from you? Your face. Or what you're like in bed? I didn't move, just stared at him with a cold smile. And what do you want from me? I shot back. Shawn, didn't you only ever want my face and my body? His eyes faltered. He gritted his teeth. You're talking nonsense. Am I? I cut him off, taking a step closer and looking him straight in the eye. Then let me ask you, what do you call telling me you love me, then turning around and kissing Wendy on the sofa? What do you call saying you're going to a board meeting, but you're actually helping Wendy try on wedding dresses? You say you love me, but you're trying to marry me off to someone else. Shawn, do you think I don't get it? You just want to have your cake and eat it too. You want the prestige of being with Wendy, and you want my obedience. That kind of love makes me sick. And a man like you. I wouldn't want you if you were the last man on earth. The smile froze on his face. He grabbed my wrist, yanking me toward him. "Let go of me," I yelled. A soft cough came from inside the room. It was Jackson's voice. He didn't appear, just said in a calm, even tone, "Lily, the water's gotten cold. I'll pour you a fresh cup." The blood drained from Shawn's face. I looked at him, my smile icy. "Did you hear that? My fiancé is waiting for me." "You." He looked like he wanted to say something, but in the end, nothing came out. He just turned and fled, his usual arrogance failing to hide how utterly defeated he was. I shut the door and leaned against it. A moment later, Jackson walked over with a cup of tea. "Are you upset?" I shook my head. He leaned in and kissed the corner of my mouth. "Baby, you did great." Then he nuzzled my neck, his voice muffled. "But now I'm upset. You never ate my food, or used my things, or crawled into my bed to sleep." He drew out the last words. "Jackson, are you being a child?" I asked, giving him a gentle push. "This is not childish." He mumbled. "Everything he had, I have to have too. If you won't crawl into my bed, then I'll crawl into yours, okay? If the mountain won't come to me, I'll go to the mountain." He cupped my face, peppering my lips with light, butterfly wing kisses. I wanted to laugh at how dramatic he was, but I couldn't. He was too sincere. Jackson lifted me into his arms, his movements so gentle they were almost reverent. He laid me on the bed but didn't make a move, just propped himself up beside me and looked at me, his gaze intense. "Lily," he whispered. "Do you have me in your heart now? Not as a tool, not for revenge, not out of spite. But really, truly, me." I looked at him for a long moment, then gave a small nod. The next second, he leaned down and kissed me, as if he'd been waiting for this moment for an eternity. The night flowed over us like a tide, washing away the boundaries between us. After we returned from Seabrook Island, Jackson and I went public with our relationship very quickly. He never missed an opportunity to be by my side. Holding my hand, hugging me, kissing me, he was determined to make up for every moment of intimacy we'd ever lost. But almost everywhere we went, we'd run into Shawn. Restaurants, shopping malls, even the parking garage. He would just stand there, not too close, not too far, smoking a cigarette, his eyes glued to me. One time, Jackson had just opened the car door for me when he turned and saw him. "Want me to get rid of him?" Jackson asked calmly. I didn't even bother to look up. "Let him be," I said softly. I didn't want to waste another ounce of energy on Shawn. Life with Jackson was filled with too many wonderful things. He didn't hesitate to show me his entire world. "There's a porcelain exhibition tomorrow. Would my dear lady do me the honor of accompanying me?" He'd ask, holding up 2 invitations while kissing the back of my hand, his expression so confident it was clear he already knew my answer. The gallery was filled with warm light and ancient beauty. Jackson taught me how to paint glazes onto porcelain, his fingers dipping into the pigments as he carefully traced the designs. He was always so calm, so focused in everything he did. "Here, you try," he said, handing me a small brush. He stood behind me, his hand over mine, guiding my movements. He was half a head taller than me, and his warm breath tickled my neck. I couldn't help but turn and nuzzle his cheek, only to see a smudge of dark blue glaze on his face. I didn't say anything, just stood on my toes and reached up to wipe it away. As my thumb touched his skin, he turned his head, and my fingers brushed against his lips. He gently bit my fingertip. Crash. The sound of shattering porcelain came from the entrance. We both turned. Shawn was standing there, a broken teacup at his feet. "Lily." His voice trembled, as if he was finally breaking. I looked at him for a single beat, then turned back and leaned into Jackson's embrace. Yes, I used to wipe his face just as carefully. We were making a mess of the kitchen trying to make pizza, and he got flour all over his face, whining for me to clean him up. The moment I lifted my hand, he ducked his head and gently captured my fingertip with his lips, murmuring, "My Lily is the best." I once thought Shawn and I would be like that forever. But we can't go back. Shawn, we can never go back. That evening, as I entered my apartment building, the motion sensor lights flickered on, illuminating a familiar figure on the landing. It was him. He was leaning against the wall, a ring of cigarette butts at his feet, his eyes bloodshot. "Lily," he finally said, his voice so hoarse it was almost a whisper. "I'm going to call off the engagement with Wendy. I'll talk to the Booths. I'll beg them if I have to. I don't want you to marry him. Please don't marry him. Come back, please." He stood there under the dim, yellow light, his voice shaking, his eyes weary. I looked at him and said nothing for a long time. He still had the same handsome face, but the old arrogance was gone. Now he stood before me with his head bowed, actually capable of saying the words I was wrong. But my heart felt nothing. I finally spoke softly. "Shawn. You didn't hesitate for a second when you pushed me away. And now that I'm gone, you want to chase after me?" I let out a small, bitter laugh. "Did you really think I'm still the same little dog that comes running whenever you call good girl?" The color drained from Shawn's face. "Let it go, Shawn. Isn't it better if we just go back to the original plan? You marry Wendy, I'll marry Jackson. Everyone in their proper place, just as fate intended." I thought I had made things perfectly clear to Shawn. But he only became more relentless, appearing in every corner of my life. He stopped pretending it was a coincidence. But I had learned to just ignore him. Jackson still picked me up from work every day. On weekends, he took me to the old district to pick out antique porcelain and watch him restore the broken pieces. On my birthday, I woke up to find the living room transformed. A path of irises led to the window, where the morning sun streamed through the glass. Jackson was sitting on the sofa, peeling an apple. He looked up when he heard me. "Happy birthday, my love. And I've booked you for the entire day," he said, pulling me into his arms and whispering in my ear. "Today, you're all mine." We ate cake on the balcony, a gentle breeze blowing through. Jackson gave me my birthday gift, a delicate iris-shaped brooch, an almost perfect replica of a doodle I'd made as a child. "How did you know about this?" I asked. He stroked my hair. "You drew it on the last page of your diary. You left the diary in my family's backyard one year. You wouldn't give it to me, so I picked it up myself." I was about to say something when the doorbell rang. The housekeeper went to the door, her expression hesitant. "Miss Lily, there's someone here. He says he just wants to drop something off and leave." Before I could answer, Jackson had already stood up and taken the elegantly wrapped box. "Who's it from?" A familiar voice called from the doorway. "Lily." His voice was low and strained. I turned and saw Shawn standing at the entrance. He had clearly made an effort to dress up, but he still looked utterly exhausted. He didn't cross the threshold, just leaned one hand on the doorframe, his eyes fixed on me. "Happy birthday." Jackson stood between us, blocking Shawn's view, his tone cold. "Shawn, my wife is celebrating her birthday today. She doesn't want to dredge up the past. Jackson, every single way she has of being with you, I taught her," Shawn said, his eyes wild with desperation. Jackson's reply was icy. "But she loves me. She didn't need anyone to teach her that." I stepped out from behind Jackson, my voice calm. "Shawn, you should go. Let the past be the past. Let's just end it here, between us. Can we at least give each other that dignity?" Jackson took my hand, his knuckles white. The door closed softly. Outside, it had started to rain. I stood by the window, and Jackson draped a jacket over my shoulders, his voice soft. "Make a wish." I thought of the wish I'd made on my 10th birthday and shook my head. "Wishes are for kids." Jackson gently kissed my forehead. "Then I'll make one for you. I wish for my Lily to be happy, every single day." The rain outside grew heavier. Shawn just stood there, never moving. No umbrella, no shelter. He just stood in the downpour. Then, I saw him drop to his knees. His knees hit the cold flagstones hard. He braced himself with his hands, his head slowly bowing down. Jackson closed the curtains and led me back into the room. The next day, I got a text from Wendy. He has a fever. It started last night and won't break. He won't take any medicine. The doctor says his emotions have been suppressed for too long. Lily, can you please come see him? I glanced at the message and replied. No. And please tell him for me. What he felt for me was never love. It was just his pride. I never dreamed of having my own wedding. I always knew I was just a bargaining chip in an alliance. I was a tool for a merger, not a bride to be cherished. But Jackson gave me a wedding. Not for show, not as an exchange. Just for me. He prepared everything. Irises carpeted the aisle from the altar to the steps, a slow, unfolding wave of gentleness. He personally selected every chandelier, every spotlight. He wrote every invitation by hand. He invited everyone, the Booths, the Smiths, the Whites, the media, and all the guests. Everyone who was supposed to be there was there. And then, he took my hand and led me away. He left behind only a video, playing on a large screen that descended in the center of the hall. Jackson stood in front of the camera in a simple white shirt, a warm smile on his face. Apologies, but the bride and groom will be absent today. But please, eat, drink, and enjoy yourselves. And don't waste the party favors my wife prepared for you. And me, wearing the dress he had sent me, standing in the wind, looking at the camera with a confident smile. There are vows I only want to say to him, not to an audience. I've been a bargaining chip for too many people. He was the only one who wanted to hide me away and keep me safe. We don't need a crowd to witness our love. We just want to be free. Later, I heard that Shawn was there. I heard that when he saw me in the video, wearing my wedding dress and smiling as I finally let him go, he just stood there. I heard he stood there until the very end, watching the whole thing, before finally collapsing to his knees in the middle of the empty, red-carpeted aisle. Like an old actor who showed up too late and missed his own play. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. Epilogue, the honeymoon. Jackson and I spent our honeymoon on that small island. It wasn't big. The streets were lined with white-roofed houses, and when the wind blew, the irises bloomed all the way down the lane. Jackson would wake up at 6 every morning, put on a loose linen shirt, and take a basket to the market. I'd watch from the kitchen doorway as he salted fish, washed vegetables, and chatted with the neighbors, as if he were born for this slow, unhurried life. Sometimes he would paint. The paintings were just of me, sitting beside him in my pajamas, taking a bite of an apple with a smile. At night, he loved to hold me and never let go, mumbling sweet nothings even in his sleep. One night, he was holding me when he suddenly whispered in my ear. "Lily, don't leave." I turned over and hugged him back. "I'm right here in your arms. Where would I go?" He didn't say anything, just pulled me a little tighter, his voice low and stubborn. "You're mine. And even if you did leave one day, I'd find you and bring you back." A warmth spread through my chest. I smiled and kissed his chin. "Okay, but next time, use a shipping company. Make sure the packaging is secure." He laughed softly, his lips brushing against my neck. "Secure? I'll just slap a seal on it. It'll say, property of Jackson. Do not open." Jackson wasn't the kind of person who loved loudly. But when he decided to cherish you, there was no escape. It wasn't in the sweet words or the expensive gifts, but in this. The way he looked at you, with those eyes that made you feel like you were his entire world.